Only last week we started talking about the coming together of TAM and BARC, something that we didn't really expect to happen, but from industry sources we're getting a picture that this was more or less on the cards. It is to be expected. So last week we had the CEO of BARC join us along with LV of TAM as well, and they gave their side of the story on really what went behind the scenes into being able to create the single currency, as it were. To understand the industry perspective now, joining us in the studio this time on this episode of From Logo to Impact is Paritosh Joshi, who represents the broadcasters on the technical committee of BARC. Great to have you with us again, Paritosh.
Thank you.
And of course, Ajay Kakar is Chief Marketing Officer at Aditya Birla Financial Services. From you, we want to understand how industry is taking this. But just at the outset, what was your reaction when you first heard that now BARC and TAM are going to be together, considering all the noise that was created about all that was wrong with TAM, how their system didn't match, technology didn't match, it wasn't keeping at pace, and of course there were controversies galore.
So like they say in the world of politics, never get surprised by any alliance and never get surprised by any breakaway. Nothing is permanent. So to that extent, and on a lighter vein, no surprises. But on a more serious note, I think it works. It works because I can be assured of the best of both worlds. I can be assured of a seamlessness in the transition. It's a great coming together of the past and the future,
right,
the old and the new, and leads to better transition.
I'm just wondering whether the organic route would have been a little easier to, because right now when you're taking on whatever an organization had and there were problems, we talked about these problems at length. Is that kind of creating a little bit of a problem going ahead? Do you foresee these problems happening?
There are two aspects to it. One is, if you will, the brainware, and the other one is the hardened software. There is absolutely no doubt that if a business has been in measurement for such a long time, there must be some great capability that they have built up, and they have. There is no doubt about it. So one opportunity that BARC has at this particular point in time is that it will probably get access to some very talented people, and talent is, as we all know, the biggest challenge for everybody.
Yes.
The other half of the story is that we will also eventually get access to those 12,000 homes that were being currently metered by TAM. Now, the integration of their homes into the BARC framework is not something that you can do by pushing a button. For starters, they were classified on the SEC, ours are classified on the NCCS. We have a particular framework, we have a particular weighting system in mind, they had a different one. So retrofitting those homes back in, do we use the same homes, do we reassign the meters? There is a whole lot of stuff that has to happen.
Right.
So
which has been decided upon, or it's still work in progress?
It's early days. I mean, what you have in place is an MOU.
Right. That's it. So there's a lot of work to be done.
There's a lot,
right? Give us a sense of how you've been using the data that came out of TAM. Obviously, an agency is going to present a picture to you. This is hopefully changing over a period of time now that you're looking at BARC data. But I want to understand the nuances of the difference that you're finding in the data that's presented to you.
Let's take an analogy from the world of technology. Till yesterday, you were used to a horse cart and you didn't know what a motor vehicle would be, and you were very happy with it. So I think in the world of TAM, we were all happy with what we were getting, but we knew that there was something missing. And I think that's what BARC brings into the...
what was that something that was missing?
The richness or the confidence levels of the data.
Okay.
When you're talking to me about a country and you're talking to me about 1.2 billion Indians, there was always a feeling that, am I capturing the pulse of the household or the individual? Are there enough people meters for me to get a real sense that, well, it's statistically valid aside, I have a comfort level, I'm putting a lot of money behind these numbers.
Right.
So I think it's a great step forward.
Tell me, Ajay, are you convinced, because there were inherent problems in the data that came through TAM, there was that missing link like you're pointing out as well. Now, are you convinced that when you're able to see what BARC does with what they're bringing to the table through TAM now, the quality of the data is not going to suffer, considering there were inherent problems over there? How convinced are you that BARC is going to be able to slice and dice in a way that will bring it at par with what you're expecting?
So for me, BARC is quality control. It's the ISI mark, and the simple reason is because it's co-owned by all three key stakeholders, and the difference is now as co-owners our point of view is inherent to the output.
Absolutely.
So you have broadcasters who were seen as vested parties, you had agencies who were seen as vested parties, but now you have advertisers as an integral part of the mix.
Absolutely. Right.
And I think that makes the big difference. We are part of this decision making. We are not the end users of this decision making.
I was talking to Partho about this as well last week in our episode. If it's a process to fast track the number of people meters that you can have in place.
As well.
Because that's something, but we thought that BARC is self-sufficient to be able to do that.
Sure. See, the thing is this, that why would, the industry has after all invested a lot of time and effort and money in making that system work, right? So they've created assets on the ground. There is capex which has gone in. Any sensible world would want to redeploy what assets you have. Why would you toss them out? Yeah, it's throwing the baby out with the bathwater. There is problems with the bathwater, maybe there is. But why would you throw the baby out with it? So what we are saying is that if we can take the assets, if we can repurpose the assets, if we can make the assets sing in tune with our song sheet, all is well. And we can do that because that entire control of managing that is now with BARC.
So the richness of the data, the nuanced data that you're looking forward to now, has it started coming? Have you been able to see the shift and in what real ways have you been able to do that? Considering your interest in the rural market as well, I'm trying to understand because now there is going to be that much more play with TAM on board with BARC.
Yeah.
Are you expecting that change and how useful is that going to be?
These are very early days and I don't think we should jump with joy. There's more good news around the corner. But we are very better off than where we were yesterday.
Right.
Until yesterday, as I said, that was the world for us. It's today when we look back and say, hey, were we flying in the blind?
Right.
But we know that we have the tools, we have the wherewithal, which is just round the corner. Now, you also have a single measure across India. So there are no India and Bharat happening right now as far as data is concerned.
Beautiful.
And I want to look at all of India and I want to look at it through a single lens and I can do that now.
Right.
So I think the future is bright, the future is
BARC.
I'm sure, Paritosh, you love the sound of that. How are you going to look at transforming this new system now? We're looking at the segmenting of audiences and SEC to NCCS.
That's correct.
Is going to be a crucial exercise as well, right?
It's been going on.
Yeah. So again, that's going to take its time. How is it going to play out?
Well,
because we've been talking about it and more and more we're going to see that happen, right?
Vikram, we launched with NCCS,
right,
and which is one of the things that I think marketers are finding useful because it's about the education and the ownership of durables in the family. So, making that mental picture happen that he was talking about of who that consumer is, we've given them a better tool to do it with. So we have to take, for instance, the old TAM panel and refit it into the NCCS model as one exercise. And then the task of actually expanding the panel kicks in, for which we have a new establishment study that BARC is in the process of commissioning. Those results will come through in the early part of 2016. So we have a fresh basis on which to structure the substrate on which we can build the next generation of the panel going forward. So there is so much to be done. I mean, it's as he said just now, and I so totally endorse that. It's early days.
Right.
But the early days are actually productive. They are yielding real results. Let me put it this way, 1.5 years ago when we were in the early part of this, there was mostly cynicism about what we were trying to do.
Right.
People thought we were barking mad. Today those people are turning around and said, well, honestly, we think you pulled off a miracle.
Right.
Because nowhere in the world have you gone from zero to a panel of more than 22,000 homes in less than 1.5 years.
Right.
It's never been done.
This point in time, what do you rely on?
See,
when you're looking at digital, you're looking at radio, you're looking at all kinds of other media that, you need to be able to track and understand that profile as well.
Yeah, so marketers are very greedy and the more they know, the more they will want to know, I'm sure. But today, we live within what we know that we don't know.
Right.
Right? So TV was a big black box and as long as we cover that, I think the rest will follow. There are also fringe benefits. Okay, we were used to a lot of advertising spends coming from people saying we are number one east or west and everyone saying they are the best. I guess we will see less of those ads, less of the confusion, and we will all be, accepting whatever the single voice of the industry says.
Right.
So I think for us, there is clarity from where we came, where there was scope for confusion.
Right. So now clarity for the future.
Yes.
And a lot more, of course, needs to be expected out of BARC. And from what I understand from BARC, it's all work in progress right now.
Absolutely.
A lot has been promised. How soon it can be delivered is also something that is going to be very closely watched. Right?
No doubt about that.
All right.
That's why we are shareholders.
Yes.
We're going to see that individually and collectively we
you
get
keep
that.
pushing.
Yes.
You keep nudging them into delivering faster.
Yes.
So a lot more to be expected going ahead from BARC, and obviously the industry is looking forward to as stakeholders as well. Ajay, Paritosh, many thanks for joining us with all of that.